Good journey, everyone. Welcome to Space Oats Live, a Star Wars podcast. I am the Crucial Crew member, and we're going to be talking a lot about the Acolyte tonight. Because you know what? I didn't talk about it at all last week, and we're up to 3 episodes. And I'm curious to know how everybody's enjoying this series. I know that there's a big split in the online community about, is it good, is it not? Some critics are saying it's great, some critics are not. Some fans are loving it, some fans are not. So I just want to know, what are the people that tune into Space Oats Live thinking? Because I hope they're thinking the way I'm thinking, because I'm actually liking it. This week's episode was a little bit different than the first two, obviously taking a little bit of a different change in the story. But we'll talk about those in a little bit. We won't get too much into this week's episode, but we will talk about it a little bit. So before I get into that, I'll definitely let you know so that you can either pause and watch this week's episode, or skip ahead a little bit until later. But anyway, first and foremost, we got to do Not Long Ago in This Galaxy, and that is something that I do every day on my Instagram page. My Instagram page is the Crucial Crew member. And usually I do a live segment each and every day where I talk about something in Star Wars history. And so, yeah, we're going to do that first because I like to, go back in time and think about some things that happened in Star Wars history. And that actually goes back to 2012 today, I believe. I actually could not confirm this date, but this is what was on StarWars.com, and we'll talk a little bit about this. And this has to do with Gentle Giant Studios. Gentle Giant Studios started putting out those amazing collectible mini busts. Their first deep dive into Star Wars, which continues to this day. What is shown is not that original mini bust. Those original ones are definitely dated. You can still find them online at a very reasonable price, actually. But I did post a picture of one of the original mini busts that was released out of the 4 on my Instagram page. I also just uploaded it to my TikTok as well. And also no, I didn't do it on Instagram. Well, maybe I did it on Instagram. I did it on Threads. I posted it on Threads today. I posted it on TikTok just a little while ago. But it did show one of the originals, which was the original Mace Windu, which the bust back then, kind of different. The Mace Windu one didn't even have any arms. It was just the chest and the head, and kind of him, like, I guess it was kind of in attack form, either from Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith kind of look, as Mace Windu. So I'm thinking Attack of the Clones more so than anything. Yeah, so that was released. It was one of 4, like I said, that was released today in 2012. So it was Mace Windu, there was an Obi-Wan bust, there was Anakin and Padme. So those were the first 4 releases from Gentle Giant Studios. They have gone on to produce dozens of entries. It's got to be in the hundreds now, in this ever-expanding series of Star Wars. And just to kind of give you an idea of some of the amazing, I don't own any of these, but honestly, you know what, if I had the credits, I had the space, I would definitely go over and pick one of these up. But just to kind of throw them a little bit of publicity here, even though I don't get anything from Gentle Giant Studios. I just want to give a big shout out because I do think that their busts are pretty awesome. But if you were to go over to their website, which is gentlegiantltd.com, and there is a actual, like, Star Wars area that you can look at, and it has basically easily broken down with the era that you want to collect in. It looks like right now they're doing a little bit of 20% off of something. But anyway, they have the original trilogy, prequel trilogy, sequel trilogy, and then the other Star Wars stories spin-offs, because you can get stuff from the Clone Wars and everything. So, yeah, so they have all sorts of 1/6, 1/7, and 1/2 scale. Basically, everything from Star Wars: A New Hope to Rise of Skywalker, and throughout The Mandalorian as well. A lot of those amazing things. So, the Clone Wars, Rebels, tons of different characters. I mean, if you just look at some of the detail of some of these characters, it's really amazing. All of these. I mean, look at that. Look at the troopers. The Dengar one. I mean, look at the face on the Dengar. Just amazing. But they even have some ones up for pre-order now. The General Obi-Wan Kenobi from the Clone Wars, Plo Koon, a young Boba Fett with Jango's helmet. They have website exclusives like the Return of the Jedi Amana Man, one of my favorite Jabba's Palace creatures. And then Nick Sant, which everybody thought was Rex at some point. You can pre-order Palpatine, as well as the Clone Wars Yoda, Salacious Crumb, the Wampa looks amazing. The Last Jedi Luke Skywalker, Droopy McCool, one of my favorites again from Jabba's Palace. Book of Boba Fett, Boba, Yaddle, which looks really amazing. That was a St. Patrick's Day release. It looks like there's still some available, possibly. Echo from the Clone Wars and Bad Batch. Bo-Katan on her throne, which is really cool. You can pre-order. The Gormarian Guards, another website exclusive with Wicket, which looks awesome. They even have some going into Ahsoka series. You can pre-order the Night Trooper, Captain Enoch. They got Size Snoodles. That looks amazing. That's a jumbo figure. You can pre-order that. Just so many characters that you can pick from, and they all look just amazing. Stuff from Life Day. I could just go on and on and on and just scroll through these and just look at them, and they all look outstanding. The range is usually anywhere from just under $100 to sometimes going up to almost $300, depending on the character and the size of these. There's one for $400. Well, that's got a speeder bike in it, so pretty cool. But just some amazing figures on there. And if you're a collector and you love these types of collectibles, I would highly recommend picking up one of these from Gentle Giant Studios. So pretty amazing work throughout the years. And yes, they apparently all started today in 2012 with 4 series. Again, I wasn't able to verify that, but yeah. So we'll just go ahead and call that the Not Too Long Ago in This Galaxy for today. But let's just get into the Acolyte, shall we? Because the Acolyte is something that is just got to be on everybody's mind. It is the newest part of the Star Wars series live action, and or anything really now that's available Star Wars. And I mean, I gotta, where do I start? It was interesting trying to think of where to start, but I gotta start with droids, because droids are like my favorite, right? Droids are a crucial component to the Star Wars stories, and we get a little bit of a new type of droid in this series, something that we've not really seen done before. We always usually get some droid that usually has its own little self-sufficiency, or should I say? But this new droid is kind of like almost like a multi-tool, but it's a droid as well, and that droid is Pip, and Pip even has fan followings. There's hashtags out there, which we'll talk about a little bit later from some of the other characters, but they're called Pipsqueaks, and lots of different memes and things that are posted. We'll have that hashtag out there. But Pip kind of reminds me of a BD droid, honestly, and it's just taking it a little bit more to a stripped down version of a BD unit, but gives me those BD vibes, especially with the way Pip sounds. To just always being attached to Osha in the series. but can't really get around on their own. But I love the color scheme of Pip, that light blue, sky blue, whatever you want to call it, turquoise and orange. Um, really big favorite color scheme of mine. And yeah, like all-purpose multi-tool. We've seen Pip in action a lot, especially in the first episode. Didn't really see him this past week, this week that we've had, because that went to a different era of the Acolyte and the story. So we didn't really get we didn't get any of Pip this week, but Pip was in the first two episodes, and can't wait to see more of Pip. I think. Love to kind of see this droid and see what's in store for this character within the story. So, you know what? Let's start off light with Pip. Let's give Pip a lot of praise as far as one of the new characters introduced in the Star Wars Galaxy verse. I don't know, what are we calling this whole thing? I have no idea now. But anyway, we also have learned a lot about some of our characters in more depth throughout this week's episode. StarWars.com actually has had throughout the last week and updated a little bit more some of the cast, talking about their characters. Nothing really spoiling this week's episode, but went through all the major characters that we saw in the first week. We got a little bit more from some of the actors that portrayed some of the characters that we got a little bit more detail on this week. The other Jedi that were involved in the four Jedi that were involved in the situation on Brendok. We learned a lot about Indara and Carrie-Anne Moss's character with that, but we get a little bit more from Juna Sotamo and his character Kabaka, and as we got to see him a little bit more this week. Saul, we were still learning a lot more about his character, and then trying to think of the other character, and I can't remember the other Jedi's name. I've already done lost it, but the one that had the Varish vow, which I know I have it somewhere. I thought I wrote it down somewhere, but I guess not. Yep, can't remember. Anyway, funny because I was going to talk a lot about that in a little bit, but but anyway, yeah. So we get a little bit of background on some more of those characters. We finally get to see Mother Anastasia this week, and in a little bit more detail in those flashbacks, and learn a lot about that. So these characters, these actors that portray these characters, it's been fun to see these interviews, read these interviews, and their thoughts on the characters themselves and a little bit behind those characters. So really great episode this week. I'm actually watching it right now again. Destiny, that is, but we'll talk about that in a little bit if we talk about too much of it. But don't worry, I'll let you know when we start talking about it in case you haven't watched it quite yet. But also got a really good in-depth interview on StarWars.com with Amanda Stenberg, and it's just really cool that this series, in the trailers and online and the early character releases of the names, we knew a lot about May as a character, but we didn't know that there was going to be two characters that were twin sisters, and we didn't know anything about Osha and the other side of this, and that was a shocker coming into the first episode and watching the first episode, and it was a cool plot twist from the beginning. I thought it was going to go a different direction, but that was really debunked this week with the flashback episode, I think. So the two characters of May and Osha, and Stenberg brings out just a great performance. Just the subtleties of the two characters, the how much they are alike, but then how much they're different. And we kind of get the reasons why a little bit in this week's episode, going back in time and seeing them as younglings. I mean, I wouldn't call them younglings because younglings is usually a reference to Jedi, I guess. I don't know. I think all children in the galaxy are called younglings, but at least that's what I was taught. But yeah, so those twin sisters, May and Osha, we're learning a lot about. I can't remember the full names because they did actually mention the full names this week. But pretty interesting, those two characters, and their origins were pretty interesting, as brought up a little bit this week, which was, kind of exciting to hear about. But going back to the first episode kind of had a two-part title, Lost and Found. And in that episode, we basically start off with a lot of what we saw in the trailer, with the fight scene between May and Master Indara. And we got caught off guard because, who knew that Carrie-Anne Moss's character was going to die in the first episode. I'm hoping everybody has watched it now because that was a big spoiler that just dropped. But honestly, it's in the first 5 minutes of the episode. That is literally the starting point. Is May basically hunting down the first of these Jedi and succeeding in defeating a Jedi, showing that she has Force potential in a way, or what we think of as Force potential, because we are coming to find out that, the Force is maybe the Force in some eyes as that power, but in other religions or cults or whatever you want to, it's called something different, which I have talked about before when going through, talking about the Ahsoka series with the Night Sisters, that basically, it's kind of like any religion. You would have different beliefs and different, names for different things. You got Jedi, you got witches, you got all this, and then now you have the Force, you have magic and whatever else. And we learned a little bit more, which we'll get into, and I'll let you guys decide if you want to choose to stay on and listen before I get into this week's episode, Destiny. But May's character obviously has some sort of, she's being taught this power, and because she can, her martial arts skills, her movement, she can predict before, certain people's actions. So that predictability and that fighting style is there. And then her actually even being able to, draw items, pull items, the Force pull, or whatever you want to call it, to her hand, is shown as well. So definitely has these abilities in the way that the Jedi do. Master Indara puts up a really good fight. It's a lot of hand-to-hand combat, which is pretty cool. You don't get to see a lot of that with the Jedi, but maybe that's something more of back in the High Republic era. That's something, or certain Jedi might not want to draw their lightsabers. There was an interesting phrase that May basically says that some people put a lot into, and I didn't, because again, you got to think of who it's coming from. May says that, once Indara draws her lightsaber, May basically says that, a Jedi never draws their weapon unless they plan to kill. But I don't think that saying is truth, because you got to think of who it's coming from. A lot of people are saying how it kind of redefines the Jedi's rules, but honestly, it wasn't a Jedi that said that. It was, you got to think about who said that. Somebody that's been distorted of what the Jedi are, and what they were taught the Jedi were. So May doesn't really know the Jedi way. So I just think it was something that was said to get under Indara's skin, to provoke, and didn't have a lot of depth into the ways of the Jedi at the time of the High Republic. I think it really had nothing to do with that. But a lot of people are out there thinking that this is rewriting Star Wars, and rewriting who the Jedi are, and I don't think that at all. But so we have that, basically that murder, and then we go and we meet Osha, and we find out really quickly that this is a different character, or we're not really sure at the time at first, upon the first meet. But she is what is called a mechneck. We get to see the Nemodians, a different type of ship, but they are basically hiring these individuals to perform maintenance on their ships, and this is what Osha does for a living. The Jedi come in those awesome starfighters that we see in the High Republic era, which are fantastic. Yord, and as well as another young Jedi. I don't think it's Yord's Padawan, because we don't see this Jedi later in the next episode, so I don't think it's his Padawan. Unless, I mean, it could be, but they don't really mention that. But Master Yord, who is, we find out, a past friend of May's, basically is coming to arrest her, because her description is given, and they brought the witness with them, which was the bartender in the establishment where Indara's fight with May was, and the description matches, obviously, perfectly with Osha's, because they are twins. Osha's kind of caught off guard, and but is taken into custody by the Jedi, put in a prison ship, which is kind of interesting that they don't. If it was somebody that murdered a Jedi, you would think that they would escort this character back themselves to Coruscant, but no, they put them in a prison ship with other prisoners, which the other prisoners decide that they're going to break out of this ship and flee. And Osha's kind of caught up in that. Osha kind of gets abandoned to the ship because she doesn't want to play along. Ends up crashing the ship onto a ice planet, and then the Jedi are basically sent to bring her in, which Master my goodness, Master Soul is, as well as Yord and Jeki, which is Master Soul's Padawan, go to find Osha and to bring her in. Of course, they think that she probably perished in the accident, but Master Soul believes that she's still alive. Master Soul, they finally catch up with her. Osha starts having visions, which basically, on the prison ship, she also tried to use the Force, which she's so disconnected to the Force. This is where you kind of really know that she's not the same character already, because that May is using the Force in the beginning. You see that. Osha cannot use the Force, so you see the disconnection there already. There's visions, May and Osha. Osha kind of has visions of May, that she's still alive. Master Soul, she tells Master Soul that. Master Soul does believe her already, and he basically is already trusting of her that she did not do this murder of Master Indara. So he elects to kind of have her come on board without putting her in restraints, which Yord kind of objects. He's kind of a rule follower, it seems. And but while they have her in custody, there's been another murder, or another attack, on one of the other 4 Jedi that apparently had. We start learning this story that they had when they went to go get Osha, on. I'm going to keep, until I get these names of these planets and everything, I'm going to keep fumbling through them. And I've forgotten it already again. Yeah, anyway, the planet that May and Osha are from, the 4 Jedi that went there. So they go to that planet to investigate this break-in. While they're there, the break-in happens again. May basically breaks in. She had gotten this poison made up from, I think it's Keel pronounced, which is that smuggler-like guy, and he knows a little bit more than I think we. He's going to be a little bit more important than I think. He knows a lot, and honestly, he's kind of not giving as much as we think. He plays stupid, I think, than more than what he is. But he makes up this poison, and basically May goes and almost like convinces, and I gotta find his name because I just can't remember it. Who was the other Jedi? I gotta find out real quick because I'm like, I keep drawing a blank on his name, and I don't know why. I keep forgetting his name. It is Torben, Master Torben. Torben is in this meditative state that almost makes him invincible, which is pretty interesting. We've never seen this in live action before. We're going to talk about that Barash vow that he is taken in a minute, but May can't defeat him by attacking him. She has been given the task by her master to defeat one of the Jedi. Like, it's almost like there's tests that she's getting into. And one of the tasks is that she beats one of them without using a weapon, I think is what it is. So I guess this makes it past the test because it's poison, and she convinces him to basically take the poison and release basically of what he thinks he did wrong, which is going to carry into this week's episode a little bit because I don't think that we saw enough of what happened on the planet that gives us an understanding of everything the Jedi did on that planet. I think there was more, and I think that there's something that they did that was in the wrong. Because nothing in this week's episode that Master Torben did makes me feel that he was guilty enough to basically end his life. Besides the fact that they went there, I just don't see it. But which makes me think there's more to the story than we're seeing. Maybe we'll get May's side of the story. I don't know. Or a little bit more of what we didn't see with certain people that did not survive this week's episode. So, yeah, so this is carrying into Revenge and Justice because I can't remember actually where the first one ended and where the second one started because it was that two-part series. But May finally kind of pretends to be, or Osha pretends to be May in order to get more information. Also, this is also where Yord really starts to trust Osha because he was following her when she kind of went off to the side and Master Torben was killed. And May was caught, with the poison in her hand. But Yord basically said that he followed her and he saw that she did not, murder him. But they kind of trick, it's Keel, right? I tell you what, man, I am so bad with characters' names sometimes, especially when there's a lot of them. When there's a lot of new characters, it's like, oh my goodness. I gotta remember all these new character names, and there's just so many of them. Kamir. That's right. Kamir. Kamir realizes who she is and realizes that she's alive, which May and Osha kind of both believe that neither of them survived. So they finally see each other. Don't know if Osha purposefully missed to stun May and let her get away, or if May just got away on her own. But it was a great fight between Master Soul and May that ended with May escaping. We get at the end of the episode Kelnaka, because they find Kelnaka, and we see a little bit of Kelnaka. Thought that was going to be where this week's episode was going, but it did not. So yeah. So Lost and Found, Lost Found, Revenge Justice, the first week's episodes. Destiny was this week's episode. If you don't want to know anything about Destiny, I suggest you pause now and watch it, because I am going to get a little bit into Destiny. Destiny now goes back in time 16 years to Brendok. See, now I remember the name of the planet, where Osha and May are from. So going all the way back to Brendok and learning about these two characters when they were younger. We get a lot of new Star Wars lore here, because what I thought were a version of the Night Sisters or the Dathomiri, or whatever you want to call them, because there is some similarities. So I'm thinking it's kind of like an offshoot of the Dathomiri, because you see a little bit of the same verbiage, the same look with the mothers. You see a lot of the same weapons, the bows that the Night Sisters have, different color schemes, but still in a way that make them look, instead of tattoos, they have like the beads. But the other thing that's a lot different with this coven, which is what they called themselves, of witches, is that they are lots of different species, but they are all women. And the interesting thing about May and Osha is that it was brought up that they have no father. So we've visited this before with the creation of life by the midichlorians, that being with Anakin Skywalker. Now, that was something that was supposed to be a prophecy of the Chosen One, but it seems like, in a way, either the midichlorians or whatever this coven is calling their relationship with the thread, which is what they call it, not the Force. How is the creation of life happening there? Or are they creating life? Or do they have the ability to use that? Who has the right to have this power gets brought up by Anastasia. It seems like there's this kind of initiation or progression of getting into, of growing older and learning these powers, which is what is happening at this time with what they call it as the Ascension. And May is all about this. May is, and you can already see May, even as a youngling, pushing or swaying towards the dark side, or using this power for more passionate means. And Osha not really liking that side of it. It knows a little bit about the Jedi, but that's something that Mother Anastasia and the rest of the coven there are very hesitant on the Jedi, I guess, because of the amount of power that they have in the Republic. And the Jedi are kind of scoping everything out on the planet. they do end up infiltrating, in a way, coming into this group, this tribe, this coven, whatever you want to call it, during this ascension process, which is right after May has completed the ascension process, which is why she has the tattoo on her forehead and Osha does not. What a great way of basically foreshadowing a way to figure out who is who later on in the series, especially if they have some sort of fight, because you'll be able to tell who is who. But basically making it so the Jedi kind of interrupt this is a great way of doing that. But the 4 Jedi that May is hunting down later are there. They're the ones that arrive. So you have Master Indara, Master Sol, Kalnaka, and Master Torben, which Torben is at this time a Padawan. We see how powerful the mothers are. They kind of put Torben in like a trance-like state, and he almost doesn't even know what happens to him. They try to hide May and Osha from the Jedi because they know that they're not supposed to have children. I guess because the Republic, they always say, like, they kind of keep tabs on everybody, and if somebody shows force potential, it almost seems like they almost force people to give up their children, to have them trained as a Jedi, which maybe that's one of the things that Torben feels guilty about. Maybe if that's not the way the Jedi worked, they would have never had this issue happen. That it's kind of going against someone's free will of whether they want to be trained or not. And just because you have force potential does not mean that, you have to be a Jedi. Another thing that's kind of interesting is if you look at the time of the Phantom Menace and you look at Anakin's age, and they already are saying that he's too old. The events that happen in Destiny is that one of the reasons why that they basically kind of give up on a child if they discover them at an age where they're already maybe can't have a change in training to get them on the right path, because they have too much attachment to where they're from and their family. Because we see the results of what happened. Osha obviously wants to be a Jedi. She's kind of enthralled with the Jedi and their ways from what she knows. May definitely does not want to be a Jedi. And but they agree to have them tested. And May basically lies and fails. Osha starts to lie, but kind of gets caught in the lie. And but then kind of says that she wants to be a Jedi and wants to leave, and the Jedi, I guess because of that, they're definitely going to take her, which ends up really infuriating May to the point where she locks Osha into her room and starts a fire, which ultimately causes this whole everybody's death. But you don't see that the fire is the thing that causes everybody's death, which is making me think that the Jedi have something to do with that. It gets to the point in the end where May and Osha are on this little bridge that starts to break. May falls to what everybody thinks is her death. That's why, Master Sol said that he saw her die, and same with Osha, but they never really saw her after she fell. So obviously she survived somehow. But Osha was saved by Master Sol and is taken with him. We see at the end of the episode that May does survive. Um, yeah, so now we get a little bit of that backstory of Osha and May and what happened, but I don't think that we've gotten the whole story of that. One of the things in the episode Loss or Revenge and Justice, going back to Master Torben, again, him feeling guilty, putting himself in this brush vow, is one of the reasons why, and how easily he basically took the poison is one of the reasons why I feel that there's more to that story than we've seen. Because why did he basically was ashamed of what he did? Because if it really wasn't their fault, they didn't start the fire. But what else maybe have happened that we were not privy to as far as this backstory information? The Bresh vow, plainly stated, is when an individual takes the Berish vow, they remain Jedi, obviously, because Master Torben is in a Jedi outpost, but they're voluntarily choosing to stop temporarily taking action on behalf of the Order. So they're kind of ignoring the Order because maybe they have something against what the Order stands for, but they are still believing in the Jedi way, in a way, but they just don't believe in what the Order is doing, which kind of goes into the fact that, by the time we get to the Phantom Menace, there maybe is some corruption in the Order, which blinds them to the fact that, the Sith are able to rise. And we're starting to see that downfall of how the Order is in the Republic. Charles Soule, amazing author, is the one who actually created the Barish vow. And he described the Jedi who take it as those who feel they have done something deeply wrong, particularly a misinterpretation of what they believe the Force wanted them to do. And while they don't leave the Order, they decide to sit and listen to the Force until they better understand themselves and what it's saying. So I didn't see anything that Torben did in this episode of Destiny that was deeply wrong. So again, I think we're missing some of the story here that we might learn a little bit about later. So that is my thought process on the Barish vow. It's not the first time that it's been seen. We've had it in the comic books, in the Darth Vader comics. When Darth Vader was hunting down the Jedi, he actually looked for individual Jedi that were taking the Barish vow because it was easier to hunt down and kill them. And that was in one of the issues of the comics. And then we also see it in the High Republic era. There was a story where I think it was in the High Republic era, but basically Barish was the name of the individual that took this vow. And even though it wasn't the first time it's happened, it was in a way that it ended up being named after him. So it was in a story that basically was well enough known that that's what it ended up being called, because that Jedi was well known within the galaxy. So it is the first time that we see it live on screen. It was a pretty interesting introduction of something new that we see within the Jedi way, that, something that they possibly, their Force powers can do. And, it can last for years, because he has been in the state for a very long time, Master Torben, when May comes across him. So pretty awesome little introduction of that to live action storytelling. The Acolyte, again, I had talked about it a little bit more, how there are fans that are loving the series so far, so much. And when I brought up Pip earlier, we have the Pip Squeaks hashtag on social media. But one of the bigger ones that's been going around everywhere is the Yord Horde. Uh, and the Yord Horde, there's been all sorts of memes with Master Yord and hashtag Yord Horde all over. And there's been other ones for other characters within the series. You got Maze Bays, Soul Patrol, the Jackie Jam, and OSHA Oomps. I love this, but I just hope that it just spreads the love of Star Wars. Just get Star Wars out there. I don't care if it starts out, being something fun and that people just catch on in this weird social media generation, but at least it'll get the Star Wars stories into more people's hands, I'm guessing, and I hope more people will watch the series that so far I'm loving. So, yeah. So the Acolyte, first 3 episodes. Again, the first 2 blew me away. This episode was just a deeper cut of learning more about the backstory of what's going on. It still kind of dived into that mystery because I don't think we got all the answers of everything that happened in Destiny. But we got enough just to keep us wanting more, which is what's going on in this series, that every week at the end of the episodes, you just want the next episode right away. So next week, episode 4, and we'll be halfway through already. So looking forward to it and seeing. I'm guessing we're going to jump back forward in time and get to Kalnaka and learn what happens to the Wookiee Jedi. So can't wait for that. We got a couple other bit of news that have come out. With Star Wars Outlaws. By the way, talking about games, I did download Star Wars Hunters today, and I started playing that. Pretty fun. I'm doing pretty good with it, too. I haven't lost yet. But beaming through that one pretty quick as far as like a fun little game to play on my phone. So I got that today and been having some fun with Star Wars Hunters. So if you don't have that, it's available for pretty much any mobile platform as well as Nintendo Switch. You could download and get that for. So, yeah, Star Wars Hunters, which is out. It just came out last week, I think. But Star Wars Outlaws comes out at the end of August. And you can catch up on a lot of the news that came from Ubisoft Forward. And there's a little trailer on YouTube. You can get to it from StarWars.com that give you a really cool trailer for like new looks as far as how the combat works. Also, how you kind of get to navigate through the galaxy, through the ship, through the speeder on the planets, and running around and so forth. And a lot was revealed with that from this forthcoming Star Wars video game. So looking really exciting. I have not pre-ordered it yet, but something that I'm definitely going to at some point dive into and be playing after that comes out. And then finally tonight, I've been doing Crucial Characters, right? I don't know how I missed doing any Crucial Character for the Obi-Wan series. I thought I did, but going back through my list, which I kind of keep a list, I didn't see where I did a character from Obi-Wan. I think I maybe was going to, but then I ended up not. I don't know. So somehow I missed doing a Crucial Character for Obi-Wan. I thought I did, though, but I didn't. And like now I'm like thinking back and I'm like, I swear I did one, but I don't have any proof that I did. Now, unless I go back through all of my streams, I guess I'm not seeing it. But so thinking about it, it's a very glimpse of the character in the Obi-Wan series. And again, I don't think that this is not a crucial character where I think that the most important crucial character of the Obi-Wan series. This is more of a character that just looked really cool that I was excited to see in the series. And it wasn't the first time we got to see this character, because this character has been in comics. They went by a different name in the comics, but then we saw them in Fallen Order for the first time, because it's one of the troopers. And I thought these troopers were pretty amazing. And then we finally get to see them going to Fortress Inquisitorius. And these are the Purge Troopers. The Purge Troopers, one of my favorite trooper armor looks. Yeah, I think they're great. But an interesting fact about the Purge Troopers is they were in the story development of them. They're the last generation of clone troopers produced from the Bounty Hunter Jango Fett's template. So some of them are still actually clones, which is why they're so precise and hard to beat. Especially when you played Fallen Order, you understood that as well. They were programmed to obey Order 66, which they were one of the reasons why they were very hostile against any Jedi. So basically, these Purge Troopers were a component of the garrison that was stationed on Fortress Inquisitorius. We saw them in Jedi Fallen Order when Cal Kestis penetrated the base there, and then also we saw them when Obi-Wan Kenobi went to rescue the young Princess Leia. They were unnamed when they debuted in a 2018 canon comic, which was Darth Vader, number 13 in 2017, written by Charles Soule. Charles Soule just coming up with so many amazing characters, brought up twice tonight. And they were referred to as Inquisitor Troopers at that time. They weren't officially identified as Purge Troopers until Celebration in Chicago, which I totally remember that, on April 13th, 2019, which I was there. And that was during the panel for the Jedi Fallen Order video game, which ended up getting released in 2019. And then in Obi-Wan Kenobi episode part 4, that is when the live-action Purge Troopers were portrayed. They were portrayed by Justin Dobies and Fong Zhang. And it was so great to see them on screen. Love the Purge Troopers. They're definitely a crucial character of mine, especially after seeing them in Fallen Order. And I loved seeing them in Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that is my crucial character pick for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Down the line, I might even do it later this month, honestly, do my all-time favorite for Obi-Wan Kenobi, because I did miss this series in full. And so hope everyone is having a great week. Thank you. Well, nobody really joined in tonight, but thank you for watching. If you're watching this later, please subscribe, hit those notifications so that when I go live, you can join in the live discussions of Space Oats Live, a Star Wars podcast. Until next week, see me on my Instagram page, The Crucial Crew Member, where I do Not Long Ago in This Galaxy each and every day. I'll be back for another one tomorrow around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So hopefully you can join in and see me at that time. And that is all for tonight. Remember to do something Star Wars. Watch some Star Wars, listen to some Star Wars, read some Star Wars, play some Star Wars each and every day. And most importantly, remember, may the stars light your way. Have a great night, everyone.